Apparently, my wife decided to fix our marriage with a self-help experiment. I thought it was a joke at first, but no. She was serious. Dead serious. She said it like someone announcing a diet. No hesitation, no irony. Just 30 days of emotional control. That's how it started. Rhea used to be fun. She used to laugh at stupid TikToks, get drunk off one glass of wine, and sing off-key to Taylor Swift while doing laundry. Now she listens to podcasts with titles like The Feminine Path to Inner Peace. She calls herself in tune with her nervous system. I call it one podcast away from a cult. Our kitchen counter looks like a psychology convention. Books everywhere, highlighters, sticky notes with quotes like, "Be calm or be gone." Every evening she reads something new and then turns it into homework for me. Can you name 3 emotions you felt today? Hungry, tired, and mildly scared of this conversation. She doesn't even blink anymore. So there we were, Tuesday night, eating pasta. "Babe," she said, "I have an idea. Please don't say juice cleanse." She smiled like she had discovered fire. Better, a challenge. 30 days of emotional control. I stared. Meaning what exactly? You don't get angry at me. For 30 days. No arguments, no sighing, no sarcasm, no tone. And who decides what's sarcasm? I do. Perfect. Judge, jury, and tone detector. Can't wait. She didn't smile. "I'm serious, Nolan. I need to feel safe with you. You're kind, but when you're stressed, your energy changes. You get defensive. It makes me shut down." Defensive? I call it having opinions. She shook her head. "See? That right there. You're proving my point." I leaned back. "So what? I just don't react for a month?" "Exactly. Just stay calm, no matter what happens. If you can do that, it shows you're emotionally mature." "And if I fail?" "We'll have to reevaluate our compatibility." Ah, the classic spiritual ultimatum. I laughed. She didn't. "Here's the thing. I'm not a yeller. I don't throw stuff. I don't call names. I don't even curse much. I just react sometimes. Like a normal human being." Apparently, that's now considered a threat to feminine safety. But I didn't want another week of tension. We'd been off for months. Small fights, long silences, the usual quiet distance that builds up until you start texting less and talking like co-workers. So I agreed. "Fine," I said. 30 days. Let's see what emotional perfection looks like." She smiled, relieved. Kissed me on the cheek like I'd just signed a peace treaty. Then she opened her phone and actually wrote down the rules. I'm not kidding. Title: Emotional Control Challenge, Rules and Observations. I leaned over her shoulder. "Wow, I get my own case study." She ignored me, typed bullet points. No anger, no sarcasm, no raised voice, no tone. "If I feel attacked, you fail." "Sounds scientific," I said. "Do I get a lab coat?" She looked up. "Do you want this to work or not?" I sighed. "Sure. Let's make marriage a research project." The first couple of days went fine. She kept checking in like an instructor. "How do you feel?" "Fine." "Any tension?" "Not yet." I actually tried. I really did. We talked calmly, cooked together, even watched TV without passive-aggressive commentary. She left a sticky note on the mirror. "Thank you for choosing growth." I wrote one back. "Thank you for choosing sticky notes." She didn't laugh, but I did. That's something. By the 5th day, it started feeling less like therapy and more like a surveillance test. She began correcting everything: my tone, my facial expression, my breathing. Once she said, "Can you exhale less aggressively?" I blinked. "Sorry, I'll tell my lungs to calm down." "Nolan," she said sharply, "that's sarcasm." "Yeah, well, it's either sarcasm or divorce, so pick your fighter." Then came Saturday, the day of the coffee incident. We'd planned to meet my sister Sophie that morning. Just coffee, nothing big. Rhea had agreed earlier in the week. I got to the cafe first. Sophie showed up a few minutes later. We ordered, chatted, and waited. 10 minutes. 15. No Rhea. I texted her. Hey, we're here. No reply. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Sorry, I forgot. Heading to a relaxation class with gongs and bowls. A sound therapy session. Can we reschedule? Sound therapy session. That's when people lie down and listen to bowls being hit with sticks. I stared at the message. Sophie leaned over. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. My wife's cleansing her vibrations instead of showing up. She frowned. She forgot? She remembered. Just prioritized enlightenment. Sophie sighed. Do you want to leave? No, I said. If I leave, I fail the challenge. The what? Never mind. When I got home, Rhea was sitting on a yoga mat surrounded by candles. Soft music, bowls, serenity. She looked up. Hey, babe. How was coffee? Quiet, I said. You didn't come. I texted, she said. Maya rescheduled the sound bath. I couldn't miss it. You told Sophie you'd be there. Rhea pressed her palms together. Can we not do this now? I just came out of deep relaxation. I'm calm, I said. Just pointing out that you skipped my sister. She gave me that fake smile that means she's offended, but pretending to be spiritual. There it is, she said softly. Your tone. No, I said. That's disappointment. Different species. Still negative, she replied. I smiled. Then schedule me for day 31. I'll express all my negative emotions once the program ends. She didn't like that one. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, it hit me. This wasn't about growth. It was about control. Every rule was a leash disguised as healing. And I wasn't mad, not yet. But something deep down started moving. Not anger, not sadness, just that quiet realization that you're not being understood. You're being managed. I decided then I'd play along a little longer. Not to please her, to see how far she'd go. If she wanted an experiment, she was about to find out what happens when the subject starts keeping his own notes. By the second week, I'd stopped pretending this thing was about healing. It wasn't about love or understanding or emotional safety. It was about control, disguised as a mindfulness experiment. And somehow, I'd volunteered to be the lab rat. Rhea had turned into a quiet observer. She didn't nag, didn't yell, didn't even correct me anymore. She just watched. That, honestly, was worse. It's one thing when someone argues. At least then, you know what they're feeling. But when someone watches you like you're a science project, you start to feel less like a husband and more like a case study. Every morning, she'd make tea, sit at the kitchen table with her beige notebook and write. Not much, just a few lines. Sometimes she'd look up at me mid-sentence and nod, like she'd just discovered something about my pattern. The silence between us started to feel like it had its own gravity. She said she wanted calm, but the house felt like a padded cell. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself this was temporary. 30 days, right? Just 30 days of walking on eggshells for the sake of peace. But by day 10, I was tired of being peaceful. I'd catch myself overthinking every word before I said it. Would sure sound passive-aggressive? Would okay sound cold? Would breathing too loudly count as frustration? One night, I actually rehearsed how to ask where the salt was without sounding irritated. That's when I realized I was losing it. She started asking strange, loaded questions, the kind that sound innocent but have no right answer. Do you still love me when I'm not perfect? Of course. But do you feel love? Or are you just saying it calmly because of the challenge? See? You had to think about it. Rhea smiled when she said things like that. Not with warmth, with curiosity, like she'd found a new variable to test. I started wondering if she even remembered why she began this thing. Was it to fix our marriage? Or just to see how far she could push me before I snapped? Then came the social test. Her company had a dinner, a casual get-together with her colleagues. I wasn't thrilled, but she insisted. "It'll be good for us to be around people," she said. "We've been too isolated lately." That part was true. Isolation was the whole point of her challenge. So I went. Nice shirt, decent mood, mentally prepared to be charming and invisible. The restaurant was one of those modern places with dim lights and loud music that make small talk sound like confession. Her co-workers were friendly, polite smiles, business laughs, the usual. It was fine until someone asked how long we'd been married. Ria smiled and said, 6 years. Then added, "And he's currently doing a 30-day emotional control challenge." Just like that. Dropped it in the middle of dinner conversation like a fun fact. The table laughed. A few people looked impressed. One woman said, "Wow, I wish my husband would do that." Another joked, "What happens if he loses?" Ria smirked. "He gets a second chance after a long meditation." Everyone laughed, except me. I smiled, but inside I felt my teeth grind. I looked at her, and she was glowing. She loved it. She loved being the enlightened wife with the self-aware project. When the waiter came, I ordered whiskey. Neat. Half an hour later, she was telling another story about how I used to argue over small things, but now I was learning to stay centered. Her co-workers laughed again. She looked at me and said, "Right, Nolan?" I could have smiled and nodded. I could have played along. Instead, I said, "Yeah." She finally found a way to win every argument by banning them. The laughter stopped just a little too late. She blinked, still smiling, but her hand froze on her glass, the kind of smile that hurts her cheeks. One of her colleagues said, "That's actually kind of brilliant." "Yeah," I said. "Brilliant's one word for it." The car ride home was silent for the first few minutes. Then she said, "You embarrassed me." "No," I said. I answered honestly. "You made me look controlling." "You are controlling." Her jaw tightened. "That's not fair. Neither is a marriage that feels like a performance review." She looked out the window, muttering, "You could have just played along." "I've been playing along for 2 weeks," I said. "I'm starting to forget what being myself feels like." We didn't talk the rest of the drive. When we got home, she went straight to bed. I stayed in the kitchen staring at the fridge door. There was a sticky note on it, one she'd written days ago. "Thank you for choosing growth." I peeled it off and threw it away. The next few days were quiet. Not peaceful quiet, just dead quiet. We talked only when necessary. She stopped writing in her notebook, but I could tell she was still keeping score in her head. It's strange how fast emotional distance becomes normal. After a while, I didn't even expect warmth anymore. Just space. I started noticing how robotic we'd become. The polite, "Good morning." The mechanical, "Sleep well." The fake smiles over dinner. We weren't fighting, but we also weren't connecting. It was like being co-workers who used to be in love. And the more I stayed calm, the more irritated she became. Once, I caught her staring at me while I washed dishes. When I looked up, she said, "You don't even look frustrated anymore." "I'm not," I said. "That's weird." "No, Ria. That's peace. The thing you said you wanted." She didn't answer. She just left the room. Then came Saturday, the day of the grocery fiasco. We'd planned it earlier in the week. She'd do yoga in the morning, then grab groceries on her way home. Simple plan. By 5, she still wasn't home. By 6, the fridge looked like an abandoned apartment. I texted her, "Everything okay?" No reply. Half an hour later, she walked in, smiling, holding a smoothie. "Hey, babe!" "Sorry, totally forgot the store." Class ran late. I looked at the empty bags in her hands. "You forgot food, but remembered a smoothie?" She laughed lightly. "You're not mad, are you?" I paused. "Do you want an honest answer or a regulated one?" She tilted her head. "Why do you have to say things like that?" "Because they're true." "There it is," she said, pointing. That tone again, and that was it. Something in me just snapped. Not loud, not violent, just done. I put my hands on the counter and said slowly, "Ria, this isn't emotional control. This is emotional torture. You're not helping us. You're training me. And for what? So you can feel enlightened while I forget how to feel at all?" She blinked, caught completely off guard. "I'm not trying to torture you," she said quietly. "Yes, you are," I said. "You just call it growth. You want to control how I feel, how I react, how I even breathe. You don't want peace, Ria. You want proof that you're right." Her lip trembled a little. For the first time in weeks, she looked unsure. Small. "I thought it would help," she whispered. "It helped you," I said. "You got to be the teacher, the calm one, the healer." Meanwhile, I turned into a polite mannequin who can't even ask where the groceries are without failing the test. She didn't respond. Her eyes were glassy, but no tears came out. Just silence. The kind that doesn't end anything. It just sits there between two people who don't know what else to say. That night, we barely spoke. I stayed in the kitchen, finished the pizza that I ordered for dinner, drinking water that tasted like static. I thought about the last 2 weeks. All the rules, the notes, the fake smiles. I used to think self-control was strength. Now it just felt like a slow erasure. I wasn't calm anymore. I was empty. When I finally lay down next to her, she was already asleep. Or pretending to be. The room was dark, but not peaceful. Just still. And for the first time I realized she hadn't actually lost control of me. She'd just built a version of me that didn't fight back. But now that version was gone. And I was still here. After that night with the groceries, something inside me changed. Not a breakdown, not a revelation. Just a quiet click. Like the sound of a lock being turned. Only this time, I was the one holding the key. I didn't tell her the challenge was over. I didn't make a speech or throw her notebook out. I simply stopped playing. Ria, though, didn't seem to notice right away. She acted soft for a few days, almost tender, making me tea, touching my shoulder as she passed by, talking in that careful voice people use when they think they might scare you off. But underneath it, I could feel it, the calculation. She wasn't being kind. She was gathering data. She wanted to see which version of herself I'd respond to. The calm guru, the victim, the flirt. She'd tried them all before. Now she was mixing them like chemicals, waiting for a reaction. I gave her none. And that, apparently, was the most offensive thing I'd ever done. Silence, I realized, is only golden until someone needs noise to feel alive. She started filling the quiet with questions that sounded gentle, but felt like traps. "Do you still find me attractive?" "Yes." "You said that too fast." "Sorry, next time I'll time it." "You're joking again." "I'm living." She'd sigh, then go silent for the rest of the night. A silence that wasn't peace. It was punishment. I used to fear that silence. Now, I welcomed it. Because the quieter it got, the clearer I could hear myself think. A few days later, she told me about another work dinner. Her tone was casual. Too casual. "It's just the team," she said. "Some drinks, probably home by 11. "Sure," I said. She waited. That used to be my cue. The part where I'd ask, who's going, what time, where. Show a little jealousy, maybe concern. But I just said, have fun. Her eyes flickered. She didn't like that answer. "Don't you want to know who'll be there?" "I trust you," I said. She smiled. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile people make when the game just got boring. She left around 6, black dress. Perfume I hadn't smelled in months. There was something almost theatrical about it. The slow walk to the door, the pause, the "bye, babe," said just a little too softly. I didn't stop her, didn't ask a single question. I just said, "Drive safe," and went back to what I was doing. I think that was the exact moment she realized I wasn't the same man anymore. At 10:41 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Ria, had a drink with Mark after dinner. He said I looked radiant tonight." I stared at it. exhaled once, and actually laughed. Not bitterly, not sarcastically, just quietly. The kind of laugh that happens when you're finally free of caring. The message wasn't about Mark, it was about me. It was bait. A small, glittering hook made of insecurity. And for the first time in months, I didn't bite. I typed back, "Tell Mark he has great taste in lighting." Then turned off my phone. She came home after midnight. The smell of wine and something sweet followed her through the door. I was on the couch, half watching a rerun of a show I didn't care about. "Hey," she said. "Hey, you're still up?" "Couldn't sleep." She hesitated. "You're not upset?" "Should I be?" "Well, I told you I was with Mark." "You did? And that doesn't bother you?" "Not unless you want it to." She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "What does that even mean?" "It means I'm not your puppet, Rhea. You don't get to pull the jealousy string anymore." Her jaw tensed. "You've changed." "I learned from the best," I said. She turned away and walked toward the bedroom. No goodbye, no good night. I didn't follow. The next morning, she was chipper again. Making pancakes, humming, pretending everything was fine. I sat at the table reading the news on my phone. She placed a plate in front of me and said, "I miss this." "Missed what?" "Us. Talking." Smiling, I looked up. "We're not talking. You're performing." Her face froze for a second before she forced another smile. "You sound cold," she said. "I'm not cold," I said. "I'm just done walking barefoot through your glass." That one landed. She didn't reply. Just sat down opposite me and started cutting her pancakes in silence. She chewed in silence like each bite needed approval. I watched her cut her pancakes into perfect squares, precise, controlled, like everything she touched. I used to find that attractive, the way she organized chaos. Now it just looked like someone trying to keep their world from falling apart, one tiny bite at a time. After a minute, she sighed. "You've changed," she said quietly. "Good," I said. "That was the point, right?" She looked up. "Not like this. You're detached. I'm peaceful." "That's not peace, Nolan. That's numbness," I smiled faintly. "Maybe, but at least it's quiet." Later that day, she texted me from work. "Can we talk tonight, for real this time?" I read it twice, then replied, "Sure." No emojis, no tone, just sure. When I got home, she was already there, sitting on the couch. No candles, no notebook, no fake calm energy. Just her. Tired eyes, legs tucked under her, a glass of water untouched on the table. For the first time in weeks, she didn't look like a therapist. She looked like a woman who'd lost the script. "I've been thinking," she started. "Dangerous hobby," I said. She rolled her eyes, but there was no fight in it. "I think I pushed you too far." I didn't answer. "I just wanted to feel safe," she continued. "I thought if you could control your temper, things would be easier." I leaned back. "Rhea, I was never dangerous. You weren't scared of me. You were scared of losing control." "That's not true." "It is," I said. "You built a game where I could only lose. Either I got angry and failed, or I stayed calm and became boring." She looked down. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said softly. "You meant to fix me." That one stung her. I could see it. The way she blinked fast, like her eyes were buffering emotion. "Do you even love me anymore?" she asked. I hesitated. Not for drama, for honesty. "I don't know," I said finally. "Not in the way we used to call love." She swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" "It means I care about you. I wish you peace, but I don't feel like I'm part of us anymore. I feel like I'm watching a rerun of people who used to know each other." Tears filled her eyes. "So that's it? You're just done?" "I think I've been done for a while. I just didn't know how to say it without failing your test." She stood up, pacing. "I tried, Nolan. I really tried." "I know you did," I said. You just tried to control the problem instead of understand it. I thought that was understanding. Yeah, that's the problem. She stopped walking and looked at me. What do you want me to say? Nothing, I said. I just want you to stop performing. For a while we sat there. No crying, no shouting, no begging. Just two people surrounded by everything they built and broke at the same time. Finally, she whispered, "You passed my test." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, and you failed mine." Her head snapped up. "What was your test?" "To see if you could love someone who didn't play along." She sat back down, silent. The kind of silence that doesn't demand filling. Her breathing slowed, her shoulders dropped, and I knew she finally got it. That control isn't love, and calm isn't weakness. I stood up. "I'll stay with my sister for a while," I said. She didn't argue, didn't ask when I'd be back. She just nodded once, eyes red but dry. When I reached the door, she said quietly, "Will you ever come back?" I turned slightly. "If you ever stop measuring love, maybe." Then I left. That night, at my sister's place, I sat on the porch with a beer. No noise except crickets and wind. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath. I didn't feel guilty or angry or broken, just balanced. It hit me then. She didn't teach me emotional control. She taught me emotional independence. Funny how that works. 3 weeks after I moved out, I filed for divorce. No drama, no lawyers fighting over furniture, just signatures and silence. It was probably the most peaceful thing we ever did together. Rhea didn't contest it. She didn't call, didn't argue, didn't send long emotional texts, just replied to the email with, "I understand." That was it. 4 years of marriage, closed with 2 words that finally sounded honest. I saw her once after that. It was months later at a cafe downtown. She was with a friend, smiling, but not the same way. Not that polished, "I'm spiritually evolved" smile. This one looked real, a little tired, a little human. She noticed me before I could look away. For a second, we just stared at each other through the crowd. Then she smiled. Small, sad, but genuine. And I nodded back. No awkward wave, no forced talk. Just mutual recognition between two people who survived each other. Later that night, she texted me, "I finally understand what you meant about control." I stared at it for a while, then typed back, "Yeah. It's not peace if you have to manage it." She replied with a single heart emoji, then nothing else. And somehow, that felt perfect. The divorce went through quietly. No fights, no bitterness, no hidden revenge. I took my stuff, she kept the apartment. I think we both got what we wanted, space. She went back to teaching yoga and started her own mindful living podcast. I listened to one episode out of curiosity. The topic? The illusion of emotional control. Her voice shook a little while she spoke. That's how I knew she was finally learning something real. As for me, I didn't become a monk or a guru, didn't find enlightenment in the woods. I just started living quietly again. Work, gym, beer with my brother on Fridays. Normal, boring, human. Sometimes people ask if I'd ever do it all again. Marriage, love, trust, the whole mess. And I always say yes, because even if it broke me, it also rebuilt me better. I don't blame Rhea. She was never the villain, just another person trying to fix her fear by controlling it. I just happened to be standing next to her when it cracked. A few months ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Inside was a small card. It said only this: "You were right. Silence does teach. I just didn't like the lesson." I smiled, closed the envelope, and slid it into the drawer next to her old beige notebook. Not out of nostalgia, just symmetry. They say closure is a myth. I don't think so. It's just quieter than people expect. Sometimes it's not an apology, or a last hug, or a dramatic ending. Sometimes closure is just waking up, making coffee, and realizing you don't need to be anyone's project anymore. So yeah, I passed her test. She failed mine. And somehow, we both graduated. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.